It's football. I've been watching it for 40 years.
Are you kidding me?
You're listening to Winning Cures Everything.
Game day, baby. Wake up or get out.
Here's your host,
a confident young man, a superb athlete,
Gary Seegers.
We are back aboard for another week in Locktober. Dare I say, the third Saturday in Locktober. That will be relevant for Tennessee and Alabama and so much more. Welcome back in. It is the only show that is dedicated in college football to just the underdog. Simply to cover. They do not have to win. We soldier on through the college football season. I cannot believe we're already talking about the 8th week of the season. I am merely the somewhat competent host, TJ Rives. Hello to my wingman, Jason Powers, back aboard from the Powers on Sports podcast, also the Florida Football Insiders College Football podcast, and more. Good to be back with you. Tons of games to go over. It's starting to get really good in conference play. How are you as we roll into another Three Dog Thursday?
I apologize to the audience. A bad week last week out of me.
Yes.
0-3, so I do apologize, people.
You were taken down a couple of times in the Big Ten. And so I believe you're steering clear of the Big Ten for this week. I had the 0 for 2 weeks ago. So we've had back-to-back weeks where one of us has had the collar. We got to straighten that out. Nonetheless, we still have a winning record. We're still 7 games above 500 for the season. We'll get into that in a couple of moments. Here's what else we're getting into. Peeps, thank you for finding us. Whether you have found us by a social media link or through Gary's channel here, Winning Cures Everything, and the Winning Cures Everything platforms, winningcureseverything.com. We are also a podcast, by the way. Apple, Spreaker, Spotify. The audio podcast is out. So for the audio audience, if you're only hearing us, come find the video shows. Search through Winning Cures Everything as the platform, or Three Dog Thursday on YouTube. You'll see us. And again, for the video audience, take us in the Bluetooth, the AirPods, the earbuds with the pod feed on Apple, Spreaker, Spotify. We love talking the underdogs. We're each going to give you 3 of them simply to cover. And we'll even talk about some of the other prominent games that you and I are not handicapping on the show. Some things are starting to resolve. Just a quick comment or two, and then we're going to get into the handicapping. I love joking around about this. Wasn't it 6 weeks ago? Just 6 weeks ago. I've talked about this in other interviews, that Florida State had beaten Alabama, Jason Powers. You know where I'm going with this. And the Noles were back, baby. They're going to win the ACC. Am I wrong, Jason? I mean, the state of Florida. They're going to win the national title, be in a college football playoff, win the whole thing. Meanwhile, Kalen DeBoer, and you spent a lot of time in Alabama, over 10 or 15 years of your adult life in Alabama. They were ready to kill Kalen DeBoer. They're ready to pack his stuff up and drive it out of Tuscaloosa. As they lost that opening game to Florida State. Here we are 5 weeks after that game, after that game, 5-6 weeks later, and Alabama is rolling with a win at Georgia, with a win over Vanderbilt to get a revenge, with a win at Missouri, who's pretty good last week. So they're 5-1. They're back in the top 10. Lo and behold, Florida State's now blown 3 games since the Alabama win, 2 of them to unranked teams in Virginia and Pitt. How did they lose to an 18-year-old true freshman, Jason, last week? Tallahassee is on fire in a bad way. They want Norvell gone. I thought this was going to be the bounce-back year, brother. What do you think?
Yeah, tough. Everybody was hyping that Florida State-Miami game. Could they get to Miami undefeated? And we talked about the trickiness of going to Charlottesville, lose a double overtime. Just think how their season changes if Deuce Robinson doesn't drop that ball right in his hands in double overtime, how that momentum could have changed.
Can I interrupt? I believed in them against Miami, and really they doctored up the final score with a couple of late scores. They were manhandled by Miami, and this has been eye-opening that after that loss, they could not stop Pitt and the 18-year-old quarterback from throwing for 300-plus yards on their defense. And there are a great many Noles, including the money people, that are over this, but do they have $50+ million to give Mike Norvell? It's a mess in Tallahassee.
It is. Obviously you have a bunch of messes in the state of Florida. And in Gainesville, the rumblings are starting that this could be Billy Napier could be on hours watch. Forget weeks. He could be on a watch of how many hours he's left as the head coach. And I'm not sure it's far behind. If they were to go out west this week and lose at Stanford, it's over. But it might be over anyway. But you're right. Does Florida State Are they able to generate that kind of revenue to replace him? I don't know. That's not the biggest lucrative fan base in the world. So
they don't have Big Ten or SEC revenue from TV and otherwise. The ACC deal not nearly as good.
No, you're right, and obviously the fan base is up in an uproar. We saw what happened up in Penn State with James Franklin. Other places are already. Sam Pittman at Arkansas has been removed. Virginia Tech. There are a lot of big jobs already open that and there are more to come.
Oklahoma State, UCLA. What are they going to do? And there's probably more. You're right. Stay tuned with Bill Belichick at North Carolina. You mentioned the Florida job, et cetera, et cetera. Hey, quick thought from you. Off the heels of the disaster against UCLA, how does Penn State not regroup with the veteran players they have and at least win the game with Northwestern? They're once again a massive favorite. They lose outright. And the athletic director and the administration and the money people just said enough's enough with James Franklin. We're going to cut him loose. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's that seems to be a leadership problem in that locker room. Again, a lot of people didn't think Drew Aller was the biggest leader in the world. Again, overrated as far as his talent level. They're just not as good as we thought they were. We all hyped them up to be really good. They've just proved to not be they're very average. They were winning that game, weren't they? Double digits at one point.
Yeah.
I think they were up double digits at home against Northwestern, who, again, very mediocre, not very good. Give Northwestern credit. They kept playing. And that's just when you lose that game to Oregon the way you lost, then you follow it up by UCLA. It's just a snowball effect and kind of like what's going on in Tallahassee.
Yeah. And so, again, in Franklin's case, he had no real success against Ohio State or Michigan on any kind of a regular basis. No success against the top 10 on a regular basis. They poured so much money into NIL to keep those players and have veteran players come back. And to lose those two games back-to-back was obviously enough. And I don't know how Penn State's going to look with an interim coach against Iowa this weekend. Again, we are here to give you underdogs. Let's get to it. Let's start talking about it. Let's discuss it here as part of Three Dog Thursday. You will begin things, and you will begin things in the ACC. The video audience can see it on the screen. The podcast audience cannot. What game do you like and why to start us off early Saturday?
We are heading to Durham, North Carolina. The Duke Blue Devils, who again, their coach, Manny Diaz, his name's been mentioned in the Penn State kind of circle here a little bit. He's had some history there. He was defensive coordinator there several years ago. They host the Georgia Tech Ramblin' Wreck, undefeated Georgia Tech. Brent Key's done a great job with that program, rebuilding that program. Old school running style. They run the ball a ton. They're good in the trenches. They're good on special teams. This is a team that I really like. This is a kind of a team, I won't say team of destiny, but just one of those teams you want to root for. They figure out ways to win games. They've struggled in some games, but figured out ways to win. They're a veteran group. They don't have a ton of transfer guys. They don't have a ton of NIL money, but Haynes King has been their spark plug, leading rusher with over 440 yards rushing. Obviously, the leading passer is the quarterback. They have three guys with over 380 yards rushing. They are going to run the ball, run the clock, and shorten the game here. And how about special teams? 12 out of 13 kicking field goals. Their kicker, Aiden Burr, 2 game winners. Very well-rounded team. They're not the most athletic team. They're playing a Duke team who's been really good. Darian Mensah, the big transfer from Tulane, paid a bunch of money to get him. He's played well. We saw them a couple weeks ago on the West Coast. They were down to Cal, and then they went on like a 24-0 run to beat Cal. Diaz is doing a good job at Duke. Again, they win this game, Duke. They've got a great chance to get to the ACC title game to see Miami. But I think Georgia Tech, again, they've already taken care of Clemson. They don't have to play Miami. I just think this is one of those years for Georgia Tech. Kind of remember that year 1990 when they split the national title? They won a bunch of close games, late field goals, just one of those kind of teams. I'm going to take Georgia Tech in the 1.5. Close game at Duke. Crowd won't be a major factor. They're a good crowd at Duke, but it won't be an electric environment like other places. Give me the Ramblin' Wreck close, but to win the game plus the 1.5.
It's Wallace Wade Stadium in Durham, right there by Cameron. And again, did you just invoke a split national title with Bill McCartney in Colorado with Georgia Tech? Bobby Ross and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets of 1990. Brent Key and the Jackets already beat Colorado and Coach Prime, while
Yeah.
trailing in the game by 10 points, won the game outright. They have an upset of Clemson as an underdog on the last-second field goal. So you like Georgia Tech in this scenario. The one thing against you, Duke 3-0 so far this year as an ATS favorite of at least a point and a half, which they are right here. You are bucking that trend, and you think Rambling Wreck Saturday early, noon Eastern time in the ACC to get the victory, essentially, and to cover on 3-dog Thursday. Any final thought, or you're good with the Yellow Jackets here and Duke?
I think the winner of this game probably is playing Miami, I think, in the ACC title game. Both are 3-0 heading into this game. Obviously, the winner will have the tiebreaker advantage, so you're basically up 2 games to the winner. Again, Haynes King, I think, is going to be the difference running the ball here late. He's clutch in these 2-minute drives. I like a late field goal, Aiden Burr to win it for the Tech. Rambling Wreck.
All right, and I'm just double checking here on Georgia Tech's remaining schedule, and they do not play Miami on the remaining schedule, obviously. So that would be the first time they would meet them in an ACC title game, potentially. Georgia Tech also does not finish with SMU. They also do not play Florida State. That's what in the world is going on with the ACC schedule maker? It's crazy. But anyway, you will take Georgia Tech and Duke in this scenario. Before I get to my game, by the way, again, we do not run from this. It's on the video screen. We were 3-3 last week against the number. We're 24-17-1 through 7 weeks. The host was 3-0 last week. I know you were bemoaning your offer last week, but the host tried to tell you about USF, 3-Dog Thursday audience against North Texas. That was a wild first couple of quarters. And then at one point, USF outscored North Texas in Denton 42-7. Over the second, third, and early fourth quarter. Alex Golish's boys can play. Byron Brown can throw the ball some. He's a much better runner than thrower, but he's getting better throwing the ball. They got skilled guys. They're explosive. They got 63 points on North Texas basically in the last 3 quarters of the game. So impressive night for them. I loved Arkansas in the spot. Now, Jason, the back door was cracked, and Bobby Petrino and Taylon Green kind of kicked it open for me because they were down by 17. They scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to make it close. It doesn't matter. Plus the 11.5. We'll take that. And then I had the Wyoming Cowboys. Come home, Cowboys in Laramie, down by 14 in the fourth quarter, got the game tied, and then eventually won it on a last-second field goal. Kudos to Wyoming for being my third cover, 3 for 3 for the host last week.
You were texting me, here comes Wyoming, here comes Wyoming.
Come on home for the 3-0, baby. Come on home for the host on the 3-0. And I believe now that makes me 15-6 on the season, 15-6 on the underdog picks for the 24-17-1 that you see there on the year. So let's keep cranking it up. Let me give you my first underdog. I'm going to go backwards to Friday night, primetime Big Ten game on Fox. Minnesota Golden Gophers, Nebraska Cornhuskers. You mentioned there were rumors about Manny Diaz. There's rumors about several coaches who might be at Penn State. Matt Rule was a Penn State player. I believe he's been a former assistant there. He's the Nebraska coach now. So that's being asked of him. They come on the road, as they say. I don't understand this line. Is there an injury? I keep looking. I don't understand why Minnesota at home, that has already won all of their home games, by the way, you can question level of competition, would be getting 8.5 here. I can understand if you wanted to favor Nebraska like 3 or 4, maybe to see who's out there. This is too many points here. I know Nebraska got the win early in the year over Cincinnati. They played tough against Michigan, but they lost at home. Fascinating on this with Minnesota coming on Friday night here. I think PJ Fleck's team will be ready, and they get Nebraska here. It's not a top 25 situation. It's not a top 20 situation. Matt Rule is 0-17 in his last 17 games against a top 20 team. Penn State better think long and hard while Matt Rule's agent is flirting with them right now that the guys had trouble winning top 25 games. Give me a thought on Minnesota, Nebraska here as my first underdog. What do you think?
They were my 4th pick on the list. If we'd have got 4 picks, Minnesota was it, because I'm with you. They went to Maryland last week and escaped at Maryland. They were a 6 or 7 point favorite at Maryland. Right. Won the game late. Raiola threw 3 picks last week on the road, 2 road trips in a row, travel weeks in a row, which is a little bit challenging as well. Back-to-back home games for Minnesota. I'm with you. I think 8.5 is way too many here. It wouldn't shock me if Minnesota won the game outright either.
I know Minnesota lost badly at Ohio State 42-3, but what am I missing here that they played Rutgers and came back and beat them at home? They played Purdue last week at home, and the quarterback Drake Lindsey was brilliant in that game in the 27-20 win. Too many points here.
Agree.
I think this is an easy one to grab. I will grab Minnesota Golden Gophers in the Big Ten again Friday night on Fox. Three Dog Thursday rolls on to the third Saturday in October. They've written a book by that title. It's always known as the third Saturday in October when Tennessee plays Alabama. And Brother Powers is liking the Big Orange here in this scenario against the Tide. We talked about Kalen DeBoer, at least I did back at the beginning of the show. He's made a lot of friends since the loss to Florida State with the wins over Georgia, the revenge win over Vandy, the win over Mizzou. If he gets this win at home, I think everybody calms down and shuts up about this season. But you think this is at least going to stay close? Tell me more about why with the Vols and Alabama.
The three words you said just prior to Georgia, Vandy, Mizzou. 3 big games, ranked games in a row. Now you're asking Alabama to get up for a 4th big one in a row. Hard to do, as Lou Holtz has said over the years, hard to get 18-year-old kids to get up every single week emotionally and physically for that kind of run. This is a big, the 4th game in a row here. I know it's in Tuscaloosa, which will help Alabama with the crowd and all that stuff. I think you mentioned a great point last week about Arkansas and Tennessee, maybe a look-ahead game for Tennessee a little bit. They did take care of business, but let in the back door touchdowns to Arkansas for them to cover. A couple stats for you. Tennessee's number 1 in the country in sacks.
Woo.
4.5 sacks a year. Number one in the country. We saw last week, if you watched that Missouri game, that Missouri defensive front got to Ty Simpson in that second half. Sack fumble early in the second half.
Yep.
A couple other sacks, put some pressure on them. Tennessee's secondary is not great, but if the front 4 can get pressure on Ty Simpson, I think there'll be some opportunity for some strip sacks, stuff like that. The Alabama offensive line has not been great in pass protection. Florida State game, they weren't great. The last week at Missouri, they weren't great. Again, you expect them to be better. I also like the 24-year-old quarterback, Joey Aguilar. He's older. He's been in these environments before. He's already played Georgia this year. I know they lost the game to Georgia, but he was smoking on fire the first half of the game and played really well. Last thing, Tennessee's won 2 of the last 3 here in this series. Haven't won forever in Tuscaloosa.
You want the stat? Haven't won since the first George W. Bush administration, 2003. That's the last win. And by the way, that is the 5 overtime game that they won. They won a 5 overtime game in Tuscaloosa against Alabama back in 2003, but not since then. So it has been a while.
Just talked to our guy, Vince Farrar, who works up in the Knoxville media market up there. He said they've changed their tactics a little bit. They're not so up-tempo. They're not afraid to use the play clock a little bit, some different formational things that they're doing. And again, I think Joey Aguilar will keep them in this game. They've thrown the ball much better this year. They're not so run-dependent as they were with Nico last year, Iamaliava. I just think 8's too many here. I think Alabama probably wins the game, but I'll take 2 scores in Tennessee. And here's another thing. Desperation kind of game for Tennessee a little bit too, because this would be a second SEC loss for Tennessee. Remember, they lost to Georgia, obviously. If they have any aspirations of SEC title game, they probably need to win this game. Alabama theoretically, obviously, don't want to lose, but they have no SEC losses. Only losses to Florida State, non-conference. I like the 8 here. Close game. I think this is a 7-point game one way or the other. Give me Tennessee in the 8.
And again, they did not cover the Tide against Missouri. Missouri hung right with them in a 1-score game. And really the Vanderbilt game was a 6-point, 9-point game. They scored late in the final minute to cover that number for what it's worth. That has to concern you a little bit. Again, if Alabama wins in this scenario, that's 6 straight victories after everybody wanted to clobber Kalen DeBoer. As an outsider, doesn't know what he's doing. Nothing shuts everybody up like winning. And he did this a year ago. When he won the Georgia game, he won the LSU game, but he didn't win in Knoxville. You mentioned they've won 2 of the last 3, Tennessee in the series with both of those coming at home. Remember, they tore the goalpost down and were smoking the cigars on the field 3 years ago in Knoxville. And then Alabama did the same thing after the game. Everybody was smoking the cigars 2 years ago in T-Town. Let's see if it continues in your matchup. Again, that's the primetime ABC game at 7:30 Eastern time for Tennessee and Alabama. I will give you another underdog in a moment, but first here on 3 Dog Thursday, let's tell you about our sponsor, Ticket Smarter and the Ticket Smarter mobile app. Again, I keep emphasizing, if you are trying to go to that Tennessee-Alabama game, good luck sitting in the lower level for any kind of a ticket under $100. Probably going to be at least $150 or $200 to sit in the lower level on the Ticket Smarter mobile app or ticketsmarter.com. Use the promo code WCE10 that the video audience sees on the screen, but I'm saying it for the podcast audience. For Winning Cures Everything, the initials WCE10, take $10 off a $100 order or more. If you're buying 2 seats, the premium seats, Jason, you know this, in the lower level, you're not going to get out of there for under $300 for a game like this or Notre Dame USC that we're going to touch on in a little while. Any of these biggest games across college football, the Michigan home game earlier in the day.
Even in Nashville, LSU
and Vanderbilt. Use the promo code WCE20 for any ticket order $300 or more. You could buy 4 seats for whatever. If they're $300 or more, take $20 off. And use the promo codes as much as you want, as often as you want to buy for college football throughout the year, the NFL, the baseball postseason, concerts, all of it. Use either one of those promo codes, WCE10 for an order of 100 or more, WCE20 for an order of 300 or more. Best secondary market prices on the internet and on the apps through Ticket Smarter and their algorithm. We love it. Think smarter, Ticket Smarter. Get in the game with Ticket Smarter and the promo codes WCE10 or WCE20 for all of the big action. All right, let's move on. Go ahead. Anything else there on that?
And where you're going to be Monday night's going to be a high price ticket. Detroit, Michigan, brother.
Ford Field and Buccaneers for Sunday at or Monday night at Ford Field. That's going to be a tough ticket. How about
ALCS, NLCS in California and Seattle, LA,
Dodgers, Brewers, or Mariners playing the Blue Jays in the ALCS for the baseball playoffs. But I mean, Cowboys, Commanders, use those promo codes for the NFL. The Chiefs back at home with the Raiders. Use WCE10 or WCE20 for the Ticket Smarter mobile app or ticketsmarter.com to save you some money. All right, I've got it up on the video screen. I'm going back to another underdog in the Mountain West, just like a week ago where I love the Wyoming Cowboys. Give me another Mountain West pooch here, and that's Dan Mullen and the UNLV Running Rebels, who start the season now 6-0 off of their wild win. Jason, did you see some of this with Air Force? Dear Jesus, 6 lead changes in the second half, 6, before UNLV won the game 51-48, beating Air Force at home for the 6-0 start. Now they're at Boise State. This is Saturday afternoon. This is a 12:30 local time, Pacific time start in the Potato Land, 3:30 Eastern time here. Did you know, Brother Powers, that UNLV has not been 7-0 with a first-time head coach since their first ever year of football? That year was 1968. Somebody, I don't know him, named Bill Ireland was the UNLV coach. They were Division II. Are we going deep on 3 Dog Thursday? And the Division II UNLV Running Rebel football program went 8-0 to start that year. That's the last time they were 7-0. They got to 7-0 and then to 8-0 with a first-year coach. Dan Mullen came out of the ESPN studio and broadcast booth for the last couple of years. Former Mississippi State coach, former Florida coach. I just think this is too many points. Boise State is good, but I think this is too many points. Give me a couple of thoughts on Running Rebels, Boise State Broncos Saturday.
First off, we got to give a shout out to our guy who covers UNLV, TC Martin.
Yes.
And his Aces, who won another world title, the WNBA champions. He's the voice of the Aces.
By the way, the doctor is all over UNLV. I've seen him a couple of times cashing tickets with UNLV. But yeah, the doctor with the WNBA jewelry. He's now got 3 rings for the championships. Becky Hammond's Las Vegas Aces team with Asia Wilson. They're rolling. And now, and look, UNLV now relevant in football here.
Yes.
They have never, how about they have never in their history had 3 consecutive seasons of 8 wins or more. Now, Mullen's not there yet. They got to win a couple more games. Let me say again, in their history, they've never had 3 consecutive seasons of 8 wins or more.
Right.
I don't know that they win this game against Boise State. Now, we saw Boise State in the opening game with South Florida in Tampa, where you and I are based. They had to battle the heat. They had Byram Brown running on them. USF hit him with a trick play bomb with the punter, who's a backup former quarterback, threw a bomb on him. They didn't know what hit them. But what about Boise State back at home with UNLV?
UNLV can score points. We know that they've scored all year, so that's encouraging to me for the 12.5. Is again, they might give up 40, but they might score 35. So Boise is a methodical team. They're not a wide open, throw it all over the place team. They're probably going to be better in the trenches than UNLV. But UNLV and Dan Mullen, he knows how to call plays. I wonder with Dan Mullen, are his bags already half packed, looking for another job? UCLA
He has
open.
said, now for what it's worth, he has said midweek, I will be coaching at UNLV next year. He came flat out.
Which one of them has never said, I'm not going to be coaching at the current school?
And we also testify that Nick Saban said 17 times at the Miami Dolphins, I'm not taking the Alabama job. I'm going to be the Dolphins coach. I'm not taking the Alabama job, and he took the Alabama job. But Mullen did go on the record on, I believe, on Wednesday afternoon, as we do 3 Dog Thursday, and say, I am going to be the UNLV coach next year. Stay tuned, clip and save for mid-October when he says that. Again, Anthony Condrea is the transfer quarterback from Virginia. He had a 300-yard pass game through the game-winning touchdown pass in the final minute against Air Force last week. They won in Laramie against Wyoming. They won earlier this year against UCLA when Deshaun Foster was a disaster as the coach. They beat them. I actually backed them in that game on this show on 3 Dog Thursday. I'm going back to the Rebels. Any final thought on this game with the Boise State Broncos?
Again, keep an eye on the weather up there. You never know what the Boise weather windy, could be cold. Who knows what the weather could be this time of year in Boise. But again, I'm with you. If you can get multiple scores with UNLV, a team that's undefeated and has proven they can score and move the ball, I like it.
Again, for Boise State, they are 4-1-1 against the number in their first 6. UNLV ATS. UNLV 4-2 ATS. I'm just looking. The extended forecast we provide it all on 3 Dog Thursday says 50s, not bad at Boise State allegedly for Saturday afternoon for the matchup with UNLV. All right, we each owe you one more underdog. Where are you headed next? You going back to the SEC, young man? Go ahead.
We are going back to the Plains. If you watched the game last Saturday night, Georgia and the last 2 minutes of the first half was an eternity.
It literally took like over 35 minutes because of the 2-minute timeout, replay reviews, injuries on the field, other timeouts.
Targeting, we had targeting.
They literally took as long as a half-hour episode of your favorite show that you could have downloaded and watched some drama or comedy for a half hour while that final 2 minutes of the first half played out, and a lot of questionable officiating in that game as well.
And I think I texted you later in the evening. Hugh Freeze might have an aneurysm and all that stuff. And
where do you come down on the up and over play? They're winning 10-0. The quarterback goes up and over with the football and looks like he's in. The ball is then stripped out. The call on the field was fumble. We have a goal line cam with the pylon technology that looks like he scored. We've got an SEC command center. How do they not make that a touchdown to make the game 17-0? Jason, where do you come down on that?
Yeah, it was a tough call. It's a tough one to make. They called it a fumble on the field, so they had to have irrefutable evidence that it wasn't to overturn it. Everybody has a different opinion. You can make the argument. I would say, from a player's perspective, don't fumble. Hold on to the ball. And right. I get it. It's bang, bang call.
And another perspective is you got the whole second half and you were winning the game 10-0. It's not as if that happened with a minute to go in the game.
Correct.
And
you then let Georgia on the same drive 93 yards or whatever it was to kick a field goal at the end of the half. So you had every chance. I think you gained 40 yards of offense in the second half if you're Auburn. That is not winning football. But I'm going back to Auburn this week, TJ.
Right.
Rives.
What do you smell here for the Auburn Tigers against the Missouri Tigers, who were the tough loss losers to Alabama? What do you smell?
Couple things here. Auburn's had a bunch of bad luck happen to them. Remember the Texas A&M game? There was some bad luck. The Oklahoma game, they got a bad whistle with the officials. They got some questionable calls last week in that game. Auburn's due for something good to happen from the officiating perspective. That's one thing. 2, first road game of the year for Missouri. They played every game at home. If you're Missouri this year, they've not been on the road this year. They lose a tough not heartbreaker, but a tough game last week to Alabama. Bo Prabula, who's the backup at Penn State last year, turned the ball over a couple times last week. I just don't know if Missouri can go on the road. This Auburn defense is legit now. If the offense would help them a little bit, they would be a ranked team in probably the top 15. I don't love Jackson Arnold at quarterback. He's proven he can't throw the ball very well. The Missouri defense did give up some plays to Alabama last week, but I think this is the spot. Another night game at Auburn, which is better than a day game. I think Auburn's due for a good whistle by the officials. And Hugh Freeze, like we've talked about with Billy Napier, he might be coaching for his job this weekend.
And they gave the dreaded vote of confidence. The athletic director spoke up earlier in the week and gave the dreaded vote of confidence for Hugh Freeze. By the way, they did meet with Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, and with the head of the officiating. The Auburn brass and Hugh Freeze apparently had a healthy back and forth about the calls, because again, as you referenced, the league already apologized because their officiating crew totally missed Oklahoma cheating, and that's the word we will use, with a player substitution or not, and leaving a player over by the sideline illegally, where the player didn't check out, just stood there, acted like he checked out, and then suddenly walked up to the line of scrimmage and took off wide open down the field with no defender on him for a touchdown. A play that has been outlawed, a play that their crew completely missed. Yep. And the SEC had to apologize to Auburn in a one-score game, by the way, for that. So maybe don't worry so much about the officiating. You don't think they will. We got Tigers against Tigers, and one more time, you like Auburn to get right late night Saturday night.
They're getting 2 at home, and that, to me, that's weird because Missouri's good, but I don't think there should be a road favorite.
Missouri 8-2-1 in the last 11 going back to last year ATS. So maybe the number is there for that. And first time we'll say it on this show. We say it every week. This line may move after 3 Dog Thursday.
That's right.
And it could become Pick'em. It could even become Auburn by 1. That doesn't matter for my man Powers. He's taking those 2 points.
Auburn's going to win. Auburn wins the game outright here. I think the 2 points don't even come into play. I think Auburn wins the game. Again, I don't love Jackson Arnold, but I think the running game, I think the defense of Auburn could potentially score a defensive touchdown in this game. I like Auburn to win the game and bounce back.
All right, let's go for my third one. You've got 3. I owe you one more. Can we say holy war here on 3 Dog Thursday?
From the son of a minister. The son of a minister.
The son of a minister is talking about the holy war here on 3 Dog Thursday for this Saturday night game that will be in Provo, Utah. All right, a year ago, some people probably had to go to church and confess their sins on the Utah sideline after they went berserk. You talk about bad officiating. The officiating crew from the Big 12, this was the first year in the Big 12 for Utah last season. And they had a Big 12 crew working the game at home in Salt Lake that missed an obvious pass interference that should have been called. And the end result is it allowed, if I'm not mistaken, it was a situation where Utah had the ball. They had pass interference, and it croaked them at the end of the game. They didn't call it. So much so that not just the Utah coach Kyle Whittingham going after the refs, but the athletic director Mark Harlan was on the field going after the officials. And Mark Harlan began the post-game press conference himself going after the referees. He got fined and got reprimanded by the Big 12. Welcome to the Big 12 for that. All right, so now we come back around to this game. It used to be the final game of the season. It's interesting that the Big 12 has it as a conference game in the middle of October for the matchup. It's now a rematch in Provo. Utah, the higher-ranked team. The Utes with revenge in this mode. How about you want a number on the underdog in this game? Both teams come in feeling good about themselves because BYU won a double overtime game over Arizona last week. Meanwhile, the Utes smacked around Arizona State without the quarterback, Sam Levitt. So both teams got some momentum. But you want a little underdog stat on the Holy War, Jason Powers? How about in the last 24 meetings, going back to the Bill Clinton administration? You go back 24 years of playing the Holy War. The underdog is 18-6 ATS, 18-6. I don't know how many outright wins that is. I'm getting 3.5 as the TV audience sees. For the pod audience that can't see us, BYU plus 3.5 at home here with Utah. I love the BYU quarterback, the freshman Bear Bachmeier. That's his given name, Bear. Yep. Bear's older brother, Tiger Bachmeier, that's his given name, plays receiver on the team. They can run it some with LJ Martin. I know Utah has been good with Dampier, the transfer quarterback. Give me a thought or two on the Holy War. Saturday night, BYU, Utah. One of the great settings to look at, visual settings. If you look at that Provo, if you, the camera from the press box and looking into the mountains there, one of the more beautiful settings in college football. Again, this guy, Sataki, just keeps winning games at BYU. I'm surprised his name is not being mentioned with some of these big jobs because this guy's he doesn't look the part as a head coach, but all he does is win games in Provo. They play tough. They're physical. I don't think they will be outmanned as far as physicality. I know Utah likes to be known as a physical, rough and tough team. BYU's right there with them. They got a lot of older players typically. They do have the freshman quarterback. They figure out ways to win games, and I'm with you. I think at home, this game was in Salt Lake City, maybe 3.5 Utah. I get it, but this game's in Provo. Both these teams are still in contention for a Big 12 title matchup and title game scenario. I'm with you. This is kind of like West Coast version of Alabama-Auburn. Yes. These teams do not like each other. That is correct. Or what used to be called, they don't want to call it anymore, the Civil War, Oregon State out west. There is hatred here. I don't know so much about the wine and cheese big game, Stanford and Cal, about how much hatred there is here. But, I mean, there have been fights, famously, brawls between these two teams during the game. Again, you had the controversy with the officiating last year. We'll see who's on their best behavior. Again, BYU at home, undefeated. Maybe the X factor is this Chase Roberts kid who's an explosive receiver and kick returner. Maybe he's the difference. Should be a lot of fun. It's interesting that Fox will be there for their pregame show, the big noon kickoff show. But this game is not the noon Eastern time. It would be 10 Mountain time. It's not the early game. So they're there talking about it for 2 hours, but the game not until 8 Eastern, 6 Mountain time, Saturday night on Fox. We look forward to it with the matchup with BYU and Utah. I will take the Cougars here to remain undefeated and beat the Utah Utes. That would be a second conference loss for Utah. It would damage them for the conference title game. They lost to Texas Tech earlier in the year. All right, let's quickly move on to the honorable mention in our remaining couple of moments on Three Dog Thursday. How in the world have we not talked about Southern Cal, Notre Dame before now? I know, much to your chagrin, bounce back win for USC. Very impressive at the Coliseum with Michigan last week. Now they're on the road at Notre Dame, who has recovered from the 2 early losses to Miami and Texas A&M. Notre Dame looks good with Love running the ball. Marcus Freeman's defense has gotten better. Notre Dame heftily favored by 9.5 with USC. Jason, give me a thought or two.
Running game for USC will be a factor here. They can run the ball. I was impressed the way they manhandled Michigan. I was not expecting that. They stopped Michigan's running game as well. Again, you have the two-headed monster backfield of Love and I don't know what the other kid's name is, Jeremiah Love, and the other kid Jackson, I believe, at Notre Dame. But C.J. Carr. If C.J. Carr can do some business in the air, I think Notre Dame will have a good chance here. Notre Dame just lost their center for the year. Their center got ruled out for the year with an injury last week over NC State. I think this will be a closer game. I think this will be a very competitive game. Notre Dame has to win the game if they have any playoff aspirations. So this could be a cold game too. Weather could be a factor here in South Bend. It's a night game. Middle of October, could be chilly. I think Notre Dame will figure out a way to win, but I think this will be a competitive game.
Jadarian Price is the other running back you were looking for. Price right now with 422 yards and 7 touchdowns. Love's got over 500 yards, 8 touchdowns. They got 15 TDs and virtually 1,000 yards from those two guys so far, half the season. So can Notre Dame run the ball? How successful will they be? And, of course, all the Heisman Trophy winners from these programs throughout the years.
By
This
the
is
way,
a traditional national rivalry game. Yes, go.
you know what Wednesday was yesterday? I know this is being released on Thursday.
Correct.
You know what yesterday was?
I believe, are we talking 20th anniversary of
the Reggie Bush, not Philadelphia Eagles,
not
Reggie
the tush push, the Bush push
of Matt Leinart in that classic game in South Bend 20 years ago, Wednesday.
And by the way, that is the game where Charlie Weiss had Notre Dame rolling in 2005. Yes. They were undefeated, and Notre Dame came out in the green jerseys, which they had not worn in forever, to play against USC. And Matt Leinart.
Brady Quinn at quarterback?
That is Brady Quinn at quarterback. Matt Leinart on the sneak on a 4th down play. If he doesn't get in, Notre Dame takes over and likely runs out the clock to win the game. And Reggie Bush, they're going to admit it. We were talking about the Auburn, Oklahoma play. It was an illegal play at that time for him to shove Matt Leinart to make sure that he got in the end zone. So they still haven't forgiven that 20 years ago. My God, that was the case for Notre Dame and USC. Let's see what happens here for Lincoln Riley coming in. It's a lot of points. USC, by the way, only 1-5 ATS in the last 6 games at Notre Dame. One of those is Lincoln Riley. Some of those are other coaches, Clay Helton, etc. The home team is 9-2 against the number in this rivalry, going back the last 11 times. Home team 9-2 ATS. That seems to favor Notre Dame. You and I didn't touch the game for 3 Dog Thursday. One more SEC game to put on. That's Ole Miss and Georgia. Give me a thought on Ole Miss getting 7.5 points at Georgia for Lane Kiffin's crew in what will probably be a wild game Saturday afternoon in Athens.
A clear look ahead last week in Oxford. You saw Ole Miss struggle with Washington State, barely got out of that game alive. My question will be is, if Trinidad Chambliss struggles like he did last week a little bit, will they go back to Austin Simmons? Will he be in play in this game potentially? Back from his ankle injury, he started the year. We've seen the rise of Trinidad Chambliss. I've not been impressed with Georgia. Again, defensively, Georgia's been good, but offensively, they just labor. They struggle. Can the Ole Miss defense step up and play well like they did a couple of weeks ago against LSU, shut down LSU about 3 weeks ago? Can the Ole Miss defense in that road environment in Athens, can they hold up to that Georgia power running game that they try to do? It can, Gunnar Stockton, can he make some plays in the passing game? They're always just laboring in that offense here the last several weeks for me. So that's the test is can Lane Kiffin win a big game?
It's a heavyweight fight every week, it seems like, in the SEC once we get to October for games like this. So Ole Miss at Georgia, Saturday afternoon. College Game Day is there in Athens for ESPN for that matchup. And Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit are doing the Ole Miss Georgia game. So that's interesting for that matchup. Hey, we didn't talk ACC. Let's service it for a couple of minutes before we're done on 3 Dog Thursday. The Friday night game might be the most intriguing one with Louisville at Miami. You already we did talk, forgive me, you did talk Georgia Tech and Duke at the beginning of the show, but this is Miami in the top 5 at home on Friday night. Any danger here? Louisville getting a ton of points. We didn't touch it. Louisville getting 13.5. Any other thought here about Jeff Brom's Cardinals against the Canes?
Both of them coming off a bye week. Miller Moss, the former USC quarterback, is the Louisville quarterback. They lost a tough one overtime to Virginia, I believe, a couple of weeks ago. Again, if you're Miami, keep taking care of business. You've done a great job taking care of business. Keep doing what you're doing. That defense for me is the key. And again, Carson Beck is playing great at quarterback, distributing the ball. They're running the ball. Keep doing what you're doing, Miami, and you'll win the game. But if you don't, if you screw around and mess around, Louisville's good enough to put a scare in you here on a Friday night.
And the Canes, again, explosive with Mark Fletcher, the running back. Love him running the football. And Malachi Toney is tremendous as well. So this will be interesting Friday night. Does Miami kind of put it away? Also Friday night, by the way, we don't have it featured graphically, is North Carolina. Speaking of graphic, North Carolina at Cal Friday night, late night. By the way, it's been an interesting last week or so where Bill Belichick and all the rumors were out last week during the bye week that he may be looking to leave. He denied it in the terse little one-sentence statement. They had a press conference on Monday. his usual Monday conference where Bubba Cunningham, the athletic director, was there denouncing the reports that he's going to be gone. And they had another administrator give some comments that he's not going to be gone. And why do I get the feeling that's the kiss of death? That as soon as he loses a couple more times, it will get worked out and he will be gone. Stay tuned on Belichick. Again, for North Carolina, they play Friday night in Berkeley. The Florida State game is on Saturday night as the last game of the night in the ACC at Stanford in Palo Alto. So we could have some interesting subplots on Belichick's future and Norvell's future in the same San Francisco Bay Area. West Coast football. Yeah, Friday night and Saturday night for both of those. All right, before we get out of here, by the way, if you want more on the Florida teams, whether it is the Florida Gators, who we didn't really touch on with their game with Mississippi State and battle coach Billy Napier, Florida State, as we mentioned, playing Stanford, USF and Memphis on a collision course. Mrs. Rives' Bulls on a collision course with the Memphis Tigers coming up. They're both in action this weekend. We show it on the screen, Florida Football Insiders podcast. Jason hosts that podcast. Everything on Florida college football from the Gator, Cane, Seminole, Bulls, UCF Knights, any of that. Florida Football Insiders, wherever you get podcasts, look it up and find it for the latest. I know you have a blast previewing the whole weekend. The pod is going to be up, previewing the whole weekend in depth on all the Florida football teams one more time, Jason.
Yes, we'll talk about, again, a lot of there. If you've been following the world and people in the state of Florida, rumors that Billy Napier could be on an hourly watch here. The boosters have made some calls, and doesn't sound good that Billy is going to make it to the month of November, but we will see. But yeah, a lot of coaching.
He better win this Mississippi State game, or it will be over before the bye week and before they play Georgia. We would agree on that.
And obviously all the percolating rumors about what might happen at Florida State, USF, and Miami on the playoff push as far as to make the playoffs. So lots going on in the state of Florida.
Alex Golish, the USF coach. Here we are back again to Mrs. Reeves' Bulls. Alex Golish spent a lot of his.
He's about to be rich.
Well, yeah, he's going to get a lot of money, but he spent a lot of his Tuesday news conference denying repeated attempts to ask him about other jobs and et cetera. Stay tuned. I love the answer.
The first coach that admits that will be the next coach will be the first coach that ever admits, oh yeah, I'm interested in the Penn State job.
Yeah. So the one thing that I love, and we learned about this 25 years ago, I haven't talked to anybody about any jobs. Yeah, because your agent and your third party communicators are talking to whoever about the jobs. Exactly. So stand by. USF again has a home game with Florida Atlantic. You'll be talking more about that on Florida Football Insiders. Memphis trying to get to 7-0, plays UAB, who already fired Trent Dilfer as the quarterback. How about we've lived long enough? You were part of the UAB program. We've lived long enough that Chris Mortensen's son, it's Alex Mortensen, right, is the interim coach for this Memphis UAB game. Memphis is favored by a couple of touchdowns. Stay tuned for that, for Memphis and South Florida looming in 2 weekends, not this weekend.
That's right.
All right, by means of recap of all of this, let's straighten it out again, and we'll roll call it for the pod audience not seeing us, and the video audience will see it on the screen. You like Georgia Tech in the early Saturday game against Duke, getting 1.5 points. I backed up to Friday night in the Big Ten with Minnesota getting 8.5 at home. I still don't understand that with Nebraska. You went third Saturday in October. Give me Big Orange. They used to have bumper stickers that would say in Alabama, no fruit sucks like the Big Orange. Let's see if Tennessee can pull it off with Bama getting the 8 points. I went Mountain West again, kids. Give me UNLV, too many points, 12.5 at Boise State. Powers is going to be texting me Saturday when Boise State's up 35-7. I like UNLV, 12.5 though here for Dan Mullen. Would be the first time that a first-year coach is 7-0. Since I believe, would that have been like Lyndon Johnson would have been the president in the 60s if they get it. You took Auburn plus the 2 with Missouri in the SEC for a second SEC doggy, and I took BYU in the Holy War with Utah for the matchup coming up Saturday night in Provo, national TV game on Fox. Other than that, final thoughts from you before we embark on another college football weekend, my friend.
You'll be at the game of the week in the NFL Monday night in Ford Field, brother. Enjoy that.
I think it should be a lot of fun for Buccaneers and Lions. They've got the Michigan game going on Saturday. We don't travel until Sunday for that. So that should be a lot of fun in the NFL. Again, the promo codes are on the screen. Ticket Smarter mobile app, USC, Notre Dame, Alabama, Tennessee, whether it's Ohio State, whether it's Oregon, anywhere all over the country, Texas, any of these big programs, Michigan, Georgia, any of it for the home games. Use the promo codes WCE10 or WCE20 to take your discount off with Ticket Smarter. Other than that, thank you again to Gary Seegers. He does a fantastic job with all the content. I love watching him. Subscribe to the channel. He's crossing the 15,000 subscriber threshold. Hit the subscribe, hit the like button, comment on the video down below as well. We love that. Brother Powers, have a great week, and good luck with your underdogs this weekend. Jason Powers.
You got it anytime.
There is Jason Powers. He's at JPO Sports. If you're not seeing it on the podcast feed, JPO Sports, and find the Florida Football Insiders podcast. I'm merely TJ Rives. Thank you for being with us. Woof, woof on Three Dog Thursday.
Thanks for listening to Winning Cures Everything. Subscribe, leave a review or comment, follow at GaryWCE on X, and check out the web store